Focus on Scotland. With us is their leader, the First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon. With oil revenues in retreat and after numerous modern battles over devolution and Scots independence, well, it is time to look forward. How quickly can Scotland get to the next independent vote? I was speaking with our Rodney Jefferson in Edinburgh, and he says, that is the question in your beautiful Parliament down the Royal Mile at Holyrood. What is the urgency for you to get to another referendum?
There's no immediate urgency. We had the referendum last year. It was an absolutely exhilarating and fantastic debate. Absolutely, everybody was gripped by it. And it's had a legacy, left a legacy in Scotland. People are much more engaged in politics, putting politicians on the spot, interested in how the country is governed. So that's been fantastic. There may well be another referendum in the future, but the focus now is on getting more powers into our Parliament so that we've got more control over the economy and the state of our welfare system. What
can you learn from Irish independence? Vonnie Quinn joins us on the set, and of course she's iconic in business media with her knowledge of Ireland. What could you learn from Vonnie Quinn's Ireland?
Well, you know, Scotland and Ireland are different. Obviously, there's lots of similarities, but, you know, the main lesson about Ireland's a smaller country than Scotland. It doesn't have the same natural resources that Scotland has, and yet, albeit it's been through some very difficult economic times, Irish people are fiercely proud of their independence and would never, ever dream of wanting to be governed by London again. So what's the lesson of Ireland? You can make sure that independence delivers confidence and the ability to take your own decisions and run your own affairs. And there's great links between Scotland and Ireland, and I think they'll grow in the years to come.
Well, First Minister, Prime Minister Cameron is on a tour at the moment of certain countries, looking to get support to change some things about the underlying treaties in the EU. If he were to gain some things in favour of Britain, would the idea of a Scottish independence referendum recede a little bit?
No, I think the question of whether Scotland becomes independent or not in the future is separate to this question of whether the UK stays within the European Union. What I would say, if the UK votes to come out of the European Union, I think it's unlikely Scotland would want to come out, and that scenario may make people in Scotland want to look again at the independence question. But over the next year or so, as this European referendum takes shape, it's really important that we're making the positive case for the UK to stay in the European Union. There's lots and lots of jobs and investment dependent on that. And I think David Cameron is taking the UK dangerously close to the exit door of the European Union, and that would be devastating for the Scottish economy and the wider UK economy.
We're going to talk a little bit more about devolution in this hour, but I just want to stick on this theme for a second. How did the UK general elections change the calculus for Scottish independence?
Not directly for Scottish independence. What it did was give Scotland the opportunity to have a much louder voice within the United Kingdom, and that was very much a legacy of the referendum. So we came out of the referendum campaign. Scotland hadn't voted to be independent. It had voted to stay part of the UK, but suddenly it thought, well, if that's the case, we want to have a much louder voice and more clout and influence, and the result of the general election was an expression of that desire to be heard.
Yeah, you stood after the election in front of the bridge at Forth and you said, we're not going to have business as usual at Westminster. Now you've got 56 people in Westminster. What does that mean, not business as usual? What powers are you asking for?
Well, there's a debate in the House of Commons today on new powers for the Scottish Parliament, so that is a debate that will see full power over income tax rates come to the Scottish Parliament, greater responsibility over our social security system. I don't think it goes far enough. I think the Scottish Parliament should have power over business taxes, employment law, setting the minimum wage. The things any country takes for granted to try to get more growth into its economy and create more jobs. But it's a vibrant, developing debate, and who knows where it's going to end up.
How can you find a ground with the heritage of Gordon Brown and Alistair Darling? Where's the common ground that can go from Alex Salmon and Nicola Sturgeon over to those two? Where do you meet 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
You know, there's lots of common ground between people who argued for Scotland to be independent and those who argued for Scotland to remain within the United Kingdom. At our heart, we all want what's best for Scotland. We just have a different idea of how to achieve that. So, you know, we need to work together, people who were on both sides of that debate, to make sure that Scotland's as successful as it can be. And, you know, very often in, debates, whether it's general elections or referendums, we focus on what we disagree on. Actually, we agree on quite a lot. And I'm in the States over these next few days with a very clear clear message. Scotland is open for business. We're a good place to live in, to study in. You were telling me your daughter studied in Edinburgh. Great place to invest and to work in. So if anybody out there is looking for somewhere to invest, Scotland is...
Was that a shameless plug?
That was, in fact, a shameless plug. That was a shameless plug.
That was a massive surveillance shameless plug. What would be your fondest hope to get out of Westminster?
Well, Scotland's only going to become independent if people in Scotland become confident about our ability to be an independent country and to prosper and succeed and, trade well internationally as an independent country. And, I want to see that as a positive step forward, not as something that's a reaction to something negative. And I'll be making a case over the next couple of years for the UK to stay within the European Union. But there's no doubt if the UK voted to come out of the European Union, I think Scotland would want to look again at its relationship with Westminster and the European Union. So these are exciting times, but they're important times because they allow us to really think about our place in the world and how we best equip ourselves to grow our economy and create more jobs and prosperity.
Last year after the referendum, David Cameron called together the Smith Commission to look at further devolution of powers. You've said it doesn't go nearly far enough. What more would you like that you don't see right now coming out of the Commission?
Well, the Commission is going to lead to, and as I said earlier on, there's a debate in the House of Commons about this today, it's going to lead to devolution to the Scottish Parliament of income tax, of certain responsibilities over our social security system, but it leaves with Westminster powers over business taxes, corporation tax. It leaves with Westminster the large part of our social security system. It leaves, decisions about where we set the minimum wage.
Yeah, I mean, but if you had those powers, I mean, you're here to encourage investment in Scotland. Would you then do something like what Ireland has done, which is lower business taxes to encourage investment?
We've argued that for quite some time, and if we had the responsibility to set corporation tax, we could use that in a targeted way to encourage R&D investment, to encourage particular companies and sectors that we wanted to grow. It's important to say Scotland does really well just now in terms of foreign direct investment. We're the most successful part of the UK outside of London and the southeast of England, but we can do even better.
What is your vision for banking? I think of Ireland with the bank implosion there, London with its own characteristics. We say the Royal Bank of Scotland. What is the ministers in your government's view of where banking should be and be part of Edinburgh moving forward?
Banks in Scotland, the Royal Bank of Scotland being one example, are on a road to recovery, and some hard work and hard decisions have had to be taken to get them back into a sustainable place. Now, I think many things have to happen around banking. Firstly, the banking sector, as well as individual banking institutions, have to continue to regain the trust of the public. Banking has to become much more sustainable. I think there's a real appetite on the part of institutions like the Royal Bank of Scotland to get back
Minister, on this day when Deutsche Bank goes under, essentially, with new management, what is the distinction between London and Edinburgh policy to make your bank stronger?
But our financial sector is a global financial sector, so it operates not just across the UK, but across the world. And most of the key decisions and levers of decision-making around the banking system and regulation of the financial sector are taken in Westminster, not in Scotland. But I was going to make the point, I think Royal Bank of Scotland, they've recently undertaken a new initiative to encourage entrepreneurs in Scotland. They're keen to get back to, what is often seen as the traditional roots of Scottish banking, investing in the economy, being there to encourage and support other businesses to grow and succeed. And it's been a hard lesson, and I guess this is not a view just in Scotland or the UK, it's a view worldwide. We've got to make sure that those hard lessons that were learned from the mistakes that the banks made are learned, and those mistakes are not repeated in the years to come.
Minister, we can't really talk about the Scottish economy without talking about the North Sea oil. I'm going to bring up a chart that we looked at yesterday, which is the price of Brent crude. Of course, when the referendum happened, it was up above 100. When the election happened, it was down below 70. How does that change the way you look at Scottish independence?
Well, what that does is, firstly, it doesn't change the fact that I believe Scotland would be a successful, prosperous, independent country. Other oil-producing countries that are already independent, when the oil price falls, they don't suddenly question their ability to be successful, independent countries. Oil is an important part of the Scottish economy. but it's not the be-all and end-all of the Scottish economy. We have a diverse economy with many growth sectors. You know, I can think of other energy, parts of the energy sector, renewable energy, life sciences, engineering, creative industries. We're lucky that we have many strings to our economic bow, and the importance is that we focus on the policies that grow those other parts of our economy.
If Prime Minister Cameron were to give you full fiscal autonomy, could Scotland shoulder that?
Of course we could. You know, we're a strong, diverse economy. The whole argument for having fiscal autonomy, and I should say there's no sign that Prime Minister Cameron is going to offer Scotland full fiscal autonomy, but the whole point of that is it puts into your own hands the levers you're then able to pull to grow your economy, to incentivise business growth through your use of tax powers, to invest in sectors of the economy that you want to see grow, and that then grows your revenues and grows the strength of your economy. That's the whole purpose and point of having greater power in your own hands.
Very quickly, if Qatar loses the FIFA Games of 2022, can Edinburgh pick up the slack?
Well, there you go. I think we're game for anything. I think that may be slightly too ambitious, but you never know. We had a fantastic Commonwealth Games in Glasgow last year, so yeah, a World Cup, of course.
FIFA,
we're up for anything. We're up for anything.
The Scottish Premier
See how I got
League.
FIFA in there?
Thank you, and I didn't do it actually. I would have gone Scottish Premier League.